Have you ever tried booking a rental car for a vacation and felt like you needed a crystal ball just to figure out the
Oh,
prices?
absolutely. It can feel like you're navigating a maze sometimes.
Especially when you're dreaming of somewhere like Maui.
Exactly. And that's precisely why we're doing this deep dive today
Right.
into the, well, sometimes pretty surprising world of car rental prices there.
Specifically focusing on Maui for summer 2025.
Yeah, summer 2025, our mission is, pretty clear.
We want to unpack the current pricing, find those unexpected deals, maybe expose some hidden costs.
And just equip you, the listener, with the knowledge to make smarter choices for your own travel plans.
Okay, so where's this info coming from?
It's actually from a really insightful source, a detailed update from a Maui car rental blog.
Wow.
They do weekly surveys, they track historical data, they even give forecasts. It's kind of an insider's perspective.
That sounds useful. And you mentioned data tracking.
Yeah, and before we dive into the numbers themselves, it's probably worth saying this isn't just guesswork.
Right.
The blog's methodology is pretty robust. They're covering like 10 to 14 different rental companies at Maui's main airport, Kahului OGG,
Ooh.
across 7 different car categories. And some of this data goes back over a year with even a 5-year study from 2013 to 2018.
So we're talking solid long-term tracking here.
Exactly. That's the foundation. It lets us see the trends even when, they see a bit strange.
All right, so let's get into it. What's the current snapshot, say, for this week, July 20th, 21st, 2025?
Okay, so generally prices are kind of in their usual summer range.
I sense a but coming.
Yeah, but with some really big, surprising exceptions. Major ones.
Okay, like what? What's the biggest surprise?
Well, the most striking thing right now is what you could call minivan mayhem.
Minivan mayhem. Sounds dramatic. What's going on there?
It really is. There's a significant ongoing minivan shortage.
Why?
It boils down to a safety recall. It affects the main Chrysler and Dodge models that dominate the rental fleets.
The Pacifica and the Grand Caravan, probably.
Those are the key ones, yeah. And by law, they have to be pulled from service until the recall work is done.
Okay, so that takes a huge chunk of inventory off the market. What's the impact on price?
It's astounding. Minivans are consistently staying above $2,000 a week.
2,000? Seriously?
Specifically, this week, we're seeing $2,083 per week.
Wow.
Which is, get this, a 214% premium over their median price from the last 52 weeks.
So more than 3 times the typical cost.
Exactly. More than triple. It really shows how one event, like a recall, can just completely warp the market, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It forces people to totally rethink their plans.
Totally. And it has this predictable spillover effect.
Meaning?
Well, because minivans are so scarce and expensive, people naturally look for the next best thing for seating and luggage space.
Which would be SUVs.
Precisely. So demand for SUVs shoots up, and so do their prices.
Okay, what are we seeing for SUVs then?
Regular SUVs are around $475 a week. That's a 20% premium. And the larger 7-seat SUVs, they're at $745 a week, a 32% premium over their usual rate.
Still high, but not quite minivan territory.
Not quite, but definitely feeling the pressure from that minivan shortage.
So, okay, minivans and SUVs are expensive. Is there any good news? Any unexpected bright spots?
Actually, yes. Amidst all this, there are some surprising steals.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Convertibles,
Good.
believe it or not.
Really? Convertibles? How much?
They're running at $368 a week right now.
Okay. And how does that compare normally?
That's down 42% from their median price for the year. Almost half price.
Wow, that's actually amazing. Why so cheap?
The thinking is it's due to new inventory being put into service, so supply is up.
So if you were dreaming of that Maui convertible cruise.
Now might seriously be the time. It shows how quickly things like new inventory can create these little pockets of opportunity for travelers paying attention.
That's a great tip. My minivan dream just turned into a convertible reality, maybe.
Could be.
What about the more standard cars? Economy, midsize.
Right, let's round out the picture. Economy cars are at $310 a week. That's actually up 19% from last week and about a 13% premium over their median.
Okay. And midsize?
Midsize are at $342 a week. That's down 14% from last week, putting them right about at their median price. So pretty typical.
And Jeeps? Always popular in Hawaii.
Jeeps are holding steady at $610 a week. Still an 8% premium over their median, but unchanged from last week.
Got it. And for people looking to book right now, any specific companies standing out for deals this week?
Yeah, the sources point to a few. Payless seems to have the best rates for economy and those cheap convertibles.
Okay. Payless for economy and convertibles.
Thrifty looks good for midsize cars. And interestingly, Budget actually has the best listed prices for minivans and SUVs.
Even though those categories are super expensive overall.
Yeah, best is relative here. But according to the survey, Budget had the slight edge this week, despite the high base prices.
Okay, that's the snapshot for now. Let's look ahead. What's the forecast for the rest of summer 2025? Are things likely to stay this way?
Well, for the typical vehicles, economy, midsize, Jeeps, convertibles, the expectation is that prices will probably stay around these summer high season levels through July and into August.
That sounds pretty standard, right? Consistent with history.
It is, yeah, that matches historical patterns. But, and this is the big but again.
The minivans and SUVs.
Exactly. Because of that ongoing recall situation, their prices might very well stay elevated, diverging from the usual summer pattern.
So that disruption could last a while.
It certainly could. Looking back, there was that 5-year study, 2013 to 2018.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
It showed average prices fluctuated quite a bit,
Yeah.
but you usually saw spikes in late December and mid-February, peak seasons.
And the summer.
Summer usually saw a peak maybe around July 4th, and then things tended to dip a little and level off for the rest of July and August. We saw that last summer, too, in 2024.
Okay, so the current base prices fit the pattern, but minivan SUV situation is the wild card.
Precisely.
This brings up the classic question.
Wow.
Book way in advance or wait to the last minute? What usually happens?
Generally, yeah, if you look far out, you'll see prices peak for expected busy times like Memorial Day or the 4th of July.
Because companies anticipate demand.
Right. But then often as the actual date gets closer, if the demand doesn't fully materialize, those last-minute bookings can sometimes fizzle down to lower levels.
Okay, so sometimes waiting pays off, but what about this week? You mentioned a counter trend.
Yes. This is fascinating. For this specific week, July 21st, the opposite happened. Last-minute prices were actually higher than prices booked 5 weeks ago.
Higher. How much higher?
Okay, so for airport rentals, the price 5 weeks ago was about $269 a week. Today, for last minute, it's $310.
A bit higher, but maybe not dramatically so.
Right, a modest increase. But look at off-airport rentals. 5 weeks ago, they were $183 a week.
Okay, that's pretty cheap.
And today, last minute, $253 a week. That's a much more substantial jump.
Wow, yeah, that's quite a difference. Any idea why? Why would last minute be more expensive this time?
Well, the airport increase is pretty small, could just be normal fluctuation. But the bigger jump for off-airport, it might reflect really limited inventory at those locations.
Ah, so if they have fewer cars, they're more sensitive to demand.
Exactly. When supply is tight like that, even a small uptick in last-minute demand can push prices up more sharply. Maybe people are just grabbing whatever they can find at the 11th hour.
That makes sense. And speaking of locations, airport versus off-airport, what's the usual wisdom there?
Traditionally, the expectation in Maui and lots of places is that off-airport rentals will be cheaper.
Why is that?
Lower mandatory taxes and fees usually apply off-airport. Plus, you don't have that convenience premium that comes with renting right at the terminal.
Okay, that's the theory. But has it been holding true lately in Maui?
Well, that's another area where things have gotten weird. In recent months, that historical pattern has often been disrupted.
How so?
We've frequently seen off-airport prices actually being higher than airport prices.
Higher? Really? So the traditional wisdom is out the window?
It seems to be, at least for now. Looking at this specific week, July 20th, 21st, it's kind of a mixed bag.
Okay, break it down for us.
Off-airport prices are indeed lower for economy cars, standard SUVs, and, yes, even minivans.
Okay, so for some categories, it still holds.
Right. But for midsize cars, Jeeps, convertibles, and those big 7-seat SUVs, the airport price is either lower or there's just no off-airport availability listed at all for those types.
Wow. So what could be causing this shift? Why would off-airport suddenly be more expensive or have less stock sometimes?
One strong possibility connects back to the aftermath of the Lahaina wildfires in August 2023.
Ah, okay. How would that affect car rentals?
Well, the business environment became much tougher, especially for tourism-related businesses. It's possible that some off-airport locations had to cut back significantly on their inventory, maybe even their operations.
And less inventory means less competition, potentially higher prices, or just no cars available.
Exactly. And it's really unknown right now when or even if that usual price pattern off-airport being cheaper will return consistently.
It really speaks to how these major events can have long-lasting, sometimes unexpected ripples through the local economy.
It certainly does.
Okay, let's widen the lens a bit. How does Maui compare to the other Hawaiian islands right now, price-wise?
Yeah, I did a quick survey for July 21st looking at the cheapest one-week rental cost from the 5 main airports.
All right, let's hear the rundown. Who's most expensive this week?
That would be Honolulu, H&L, at $1,038 a week. Ouch.
Wow, okay. Honolulu is pricey. Who's next?
Then comes Kona, KOA, on the Big Island, at $616 a week. After that, Lihue, LIH, on Kauai at $364.
Okay, so $364 for Kauai. Where does Maui fit in?
Maui's Kahului Airport, OGG, comes in fourth cheapest this week at $309.
And a trio $9.
And the cheapest, that's Hilo, ITO, also on the Big Island, at $294 a week.
Interesting. So Maui is 4th out of 5 this week. How does that compare historically? I thought Maui was often cheaper.
It often is. And that's the context here. Maui has frequently been among the most affordable islands for rentals recently.
How frequently?
Looking back over the last 16 weeks, Maui actually had the lowest price 13 of those weeks.
Wow, 13 out of 16.
And it was the second lowest for the other 3 weeks. So being fourth this week, while still relatively affordable compared to Honolulu, is actually a bit of a dip in its usual standing.
Shows how much things can shift week to week, even across the islands.
Definitely. It's a very dynamic market.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's maybe try to recap the key takeaways from this deep dive.
Sounds good. I think first and foremost are those absolutely unprecedented minivan prices, driven by that safety recall. That's the big headline.
Right, over $2,000 a week. Don't forget that.
Definitely don't forget that. Then, on the flip side, the surprising deals on convertibles. Nearly half price right now.
A potential silver lining for some travelers.
Yeah. Then there's the whole booking timing thing, that counterintuitive trend this week, where last minute was actually more expensive than booking ahead, especially off airport.
So booking early isn't always guaranteed to be cheaper, but this week, waiting definitely cost more.
Seems that way this time. And finally, that ongoing disruption in the airport versus off-airport pricing. The old rules don't seem to apply consistently right now.
You really have to check both.
You absolutely do. And all of this is happening while Maui overall is still generally one of the more affordable Hawaiian islands for car rentals.
Unless you need that minivan.
Unless you need that minivan, exactly.
So for you, the listener, thinking about your next trip, hopefully these insights give you some things to consider.
Yeah, think about how this might shape your plans. What kind of vehicle do you really prioritize? Is flexibility key?
And is it worth that extra effort to check off airport prices, knowing the inventory might be tighter, but you could find a deal, or maybe the airport is surprisingly cheaper?
It adds another layer to the planning process, for sure.
It really does. And maybe stepping back even further. This whole situation makes you think, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, we saw how a single safety recall dramatically impacted an entire vehicle category, and how a natural disaster, the Lahaina wildfires, seems to still be affecting business operations like off-airport rentals.
Yeah, the ripple effects are clear.
So what does this deep dive really tell us about maybe the interconnectedness or even the fragility of supply chains, especially in tourism?
That's a really interesting point. It suggests things are maybe more tightly linked and vulnerable than we realize day to day.
And could similar disruptions, in completely different sectors impact everyday costs for us as consumers in ways we don't immediately connect?
It certainly implies that seemingly small or isolated events, whether it's a recall or a regional disaster, can have these much broader economic consequences that touch our wallets in unexpected ways.
Yeah. Definitely something to think about long after you've booked that rental car.
Absolutely. Food for thought.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.